to order. With roll call, please, Sandy.
Mrs. Cox? Unmute, Diane.
This is only going to take a minute.
Down at the bottom of your screen.
Control D. Control D will unmute also.
Mrs. Garrett?
Here.
Mrs. Hanson?
Here.
Mrs. Fow?
Here.
Mrs. Santana?
Here.
Mr. Tatalini?
Here.
Mr. Mortensen?
Here. Okay, will you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I so move.
I second it.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or any discussion on that item? If not, roll call, please, Sandy.
Mrs. Cox?
Aye.
Mrs. Garrett?
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mrs. Fow?
Aye.
Mrs. Santana?
Aye.
Mr. Tatalini?
Aye.
Mr. Mortensen?
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to recognition of guests, we have none at this time. So we'll go to reports. 4.1 preschool Head Start report. Everybody have a chance to look that over?
Yep.
Anybody have any questions or anything on that one?
We have more information on that, quite a bit of information later on in the meeting
Okay.
on Head Start.
All right. Anything else? Not, we'll move on to board reports. Does anybody have any board reports?
I've sat in on a couple of Head Start meetings. One was with like the national directors kind of telling us what to do when it first happened. And then we had a preschool policy council meeting via Zoom or Google call, whatever this is called, last week. And it actually went fairly well. We had enough people attend that we were able to have a quorum and they could vote and get the things through that they needed to. So it worked out.
Very good. Thanks, Brandy.
Yep.
Any other reports? If not, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Wilson. 1 second. Okay.
A number of things. Seems like every day is 4 or 5 Google Hangouts or Zoom meetings, but I guess for the purposes of tonight, construction continues, which is good. And we're looking at getting started with the, it's really weird to hear yourself twice. It's won't be long and they'll start. There is a little bit of abatement to be done on the Wolf property, just in that little front building, and they'll get started on that. And then demo might actually start ahead of demo on the middle school. And we can talk a little bit more about that in construction, but you'll see some of that activity, lots of paving going on, and we're pleased about that. And probably the day-to-day things that are going on is that instruction's still taking place. Teachers are in contact with students and administrators in contact with teachers and families, and we're making some pretty good progress. We still have some engagement challenges that we're working through with individual students and families, but hopefully they understand and are starting to know that we're not trying to be a pain in contacting them, but that's how attendance works and that's how their grades are developed and how we measure their progress. So hopefully even those that are struggling a little bit will still have an opportunity to salvage the quarter and make sure that they're able to do the things they want to do for the future. From a hurrah standpoint, Mrs. Headley and I, mostly Mrs. Headley, got a grant applied for 25 grand for the COVID-19 through state of Colorado, and we actually got all $25,000 and it's in our bank account. So the expenses that we are experiencing with additional hotspots and some of the contracts that go with them for the connectivity, as well as some of the additional expenses we're incurring with the delivery and preparation of 2,200 meals a day, should be taken care of. But also in our application, we included a couple of more robust laptops for accounts payable and payroll to be able to work remotely. And so that'll be included, and those costs shouldn't go against our regular budget. So some of those things are pretty cool. And it's fun to see the different people that are stepping up from within our organization to just make a difference in small ways and in big ways. So that's fun. What we're hearing out of Denver is legislature will come back to session sometime around the 17th or 18th of May. And supposedly within 2 weeks, they'll have the long bill passed and we'll know where our budget sits, or at least what's available for our budget by 1st of June or shortly thereafter. I'll believe it when I see it, although I do know that the JBC Joint Budget Committee is starting to meet again come 1st of May, so maybe they have a chance, but I'll be a little surprised. And in terms of curriculum, I'm still working on some of our curriculum companies to see if we can get a little better pricing now that life's a little different. You all approved that as a board at our March meeting, but I'm still wanting to maybe get a little better pricing if we can pull it off. I think we need to if we can. Professional development, we're looking at some of those things across the board. A number of our professional development conferences were canceled because they were in person, and so that's not the end of the world, but we're working with some of those companies to see about getting those things accomplished virtually, in addition to what we're doing for our paraprofessionals that we talked about previously as well. So lots of online opportunities, and just trying to make sure that they're as robust as we want them to be and beneficial, so that it's not just a time waster. And I don't know if you saw the governor's presentation today. He did talk about letting the stay-at-home order expire and moving to a safe-at-home situation. You noticed he intentionally, I think it was intentional, but he conspicuously did not address childcare, education, or answer the question about summer camps. And I think that's part of his statement of saying, we're a very diverse state. We have places where there are hot spots still, places that are coming out of it. He mentioned Eagle County, and others that really haven't experienced much of it. So from that standpoint, I think he's going to leave that up to the local piece. But if you noticed on the slides, if you noticed when they zoomed in, if you were watching as well as listening, it did have schools closed. And regardless of whether he thinks they do or not, in talking with the health professionals here in Morgan County, we're not leveling out yet, or at least we haven't seen 14 days of leveling out. So I don't see any responsible way to bring kids back to school before the 21st of May. So we can talk more about that later on in the meeting, but as a report, I think that the time is such that it's going to be real tough to see that working in any feasible way. So, questions?
You had mentioned earlier about families still not engaging, have we made sure that those are just, that it's their choice to not engage and not that they don't have access to like Chromebooks or internet or anything like that? Okay.
Yes, what we've done is on multiple levels, whether it's, obviously electronically, it makes it a little tough if they don't have connectivity. They can't send us an electronic message that says, hey, I can't make it. But we've been making phone calls to see if they're having connectivity issues. And right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Troutwine, but I don't believe we have anybody who doesn't have connectivity. Is that accurate?
That we know of, correct. I mean, yeah. We still have hotspots, and everyone should have a Chromebook, and if they don't have either, we can fix that quickly. So, anybody that let us know, we're happy to help.
And really, what we're doing is we're calling people that haven't engaged still. We did right after the bat. We started on a Wednesday, and by that next Friday, we'd made contact with all but two of our families. And then again, if we're not seeing assignments being turned in, then teachers contact their administrators and counselors try and make the call to say, hey, teachers tried, we haven't gotten any response. And then if we're unable to get that, then we've used law enforcement to do a drive-by to pop in. And again, there are some cases where, law enforcement reports back and says, yeah, there was a car running in the driveway and we could hear people inside, but nobody answered the door. And it's like, okay, there is that out there. So, but yeah, I think we're certainly making every effort to make sure that we have as much engagement as possible and that people aren't being left out other than by choice.
Does anybody have any more questions?
Can I
Okay,
add one more thing?
yes, sir.
I had a question earlier about musical instruments and whether or not those could be distributed and how and when. And we've been working on that, and we're hoping that we'll have those at a spot where we can do. I don't know that we'll be delivering them, but I think we'll have a distribution similar to what we did with Chromebooks, and we should be able to have that hopefully by that first week of May is our plan. Make sure we get things cleaned and ready to be distributed, and then we'll worry about getting them disinfected upon return. But I think we have a plan in place. It's just a matter now of working through all of those instruments now that our music instructor or instructors are able to do that.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Wilson. Anybody else have any questions or comments? If not, we'll move on to 4.4. Diane?
I was just wondering, is there going to be any impact on who's going to address if there's an impact on graduation requirements being met? Whose responsibility is that going to be if some of these people that are not engaging are slated for graduation this spring? That's been kind of a concern of mine.
Well, we're still assessing which students might be in harm's way, if you will, in terms of whether or not they can graduate. And then once we determine whether there'll need to be any adjustments, or if we believe there should be any adjustments, then we'll make that comment to you all. We have a board meeting set. I don't know if you remember, our board meeting was set for May 4th. And other than that topic, I was going to suggest that we delay that to the 11th or to the 18th. Seniors' last day is the 6th per the regular calendar. And so to me, I think that's probably pretty good cause to have that board meeting rescheduled at least till the 11th. That way, if there are those that we need to suggest to you that we'd like to relax any or all, not all requirements, but any of the requirements for some of our students, we could notify you far enough in advance, and then we could take that action at the meeting on the 11th, which would still be ahead of the originally scheduled 17th, which is commencement Sunday.
there's no other questions or comments, we'll move on to the 4.4, which is a financial report. Candy, are you willing to go ahead and give that? Is Candy out there somewhere?
I'm here. My plan actually was just to not give a verbal presentation,
Okay.
but instead to just have you all read through what was attached to your agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on the financial report that we have attached to our agenda? If not, we'll move on. At this time, we have no community comment and no executive session at this time. Is there a motion to approve the consensus agenda?
I say move. I'll second.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that? If not, roll call, please, Sandy.
Can I ask who seconded that, please?
Lacey.
Lacey. Okay, thank you. Mrs. Cox,
Aye.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mrs. Fow,
Aye.
Mrs. Santana,
Aye.
Mr. Tattolini,
Aye.
Mr. Mortensen.
Aye. Okay, moving on to business items. 8.1, Resolution 2020-03, grant emergency powers and suspend policies. Is there a motion on this 8.1?
I would make a motion to approve that resolution, and then I'll talk to it after it's seconded.
I second the motion.
Okay, so moved and seconded to approve motion 8.1. Is there discussion?
I just had a couple of comments. When I talked to Randy Black today from CASB, he said that I asked him about this resolution, and he said this resolution is being adopted across the state to avoid any conflicts if anything should go from bad to worse, or from worse to even worser. But he said there's not been one instance, and he said I'm sure that we would have heard about it if there'd been an instance where this had been abused or anything. But it just protects the school district, and it protects the students, and lets Dr. Wilson do his job, is basically what it does. You know, we're all in this together, and this helps us see that a little more clearly, I think.
Diane, am I right in thinking that this expires at some point? I'm not sure exactly when that is, but maybe you know.
I think that I don't actually, but whenever the governor releases his expectations on the state, I think that's when it would be nil and void anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, short term.
I think there's some language in that resolution that explains that, and it'll take me a minute to look at it probably, but.
Yeah. Oh.
Briefly.
Dr. Wilson, do you know when the expiration of that would be? You probably have talked to more people about it than.
I believe that if and when the governor allows the stay-at-home order, his executive order to expire, which would be next Sunday, I think that essentially takes care of it at this point. Now, if he comes back out because people don't social distance the way the models suggest, or if their models were wrong and he reinstitutes, then it would cover us for that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it says that the temporary powers authorized by this resolution are in effect for the duration identified in the governor's order of March 18th, 2020, and any subsequent extension of that order, unless otherwise rescinded or extended by the power upon a
Did we just lose half the
Are you
people?
still talking? That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, we lost 3 or 4. District office looks like they're the bill. I'm not sure why that is, but
Okay.
I'm not sure if Bill's there because he's not unmuting.
huh.
Okay,
And-
I'm going to
Yeah.
mute.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I did unmute, but I may be low enough on my volume. I can see Andy, Scott, Diane, Brandy.
Yeah. We lost everybody at the district office, Bill. So I'm not sure. The social
There's-
distancing requirement wasn't met or something. I'm not sure what was going on, but have them.
Well, they're
Log
still
back in.
here.
Yeah,
You
whatever.
can see, I don't have anybody at gunpoint, so I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. Go ahead and just log back in or try to join the
Okay.
meeting. Join the meeting again. We lost Sandy too, so
Yeah, I seem to have lost Sandy on here. All right, we'll tell him. Relog in, peoples. I'll text Sandy and tell her.
Break time.
I just usually got a bottle in it.
Go for it.
Says this. Mr. Troutwine,
yeah.
they're telling me they're getting a notice that says this site can't be reached.
Huh. The internet must have gone out. Did they reboot their Chromebooks?
They haven't rebooted their Chromebook.
Yeah,
What do you
have them redo their Chromebooks. Are you on your computer, Bill, or your Chromebook?
I'm on my computer.
Okay. Huh.
I'm on my computer at home.
And Sandy was on her computer though, right? Or was she on her Chromebook?
I don't know. She's in another room. Yeah, Sandy says she can't get back in either. What's the quick way to reboot your Chromebook?
Hold the power button. Yeah, seriously. Close the lid. Close the lid will turn it off and turn it back on.
We've had to like start a whole new meeting before when this has happened. It's only happened twice to me so far, but we've had to create a new link and everybody going through a new link, which is awful for a board meeting because you can't publish it.
Yeah, that's a pain. Huh.
Hopefully that's not the case this time.
Yeah. So,
Well, I think they can.
Glad you've had experience, Meg. Give us an idea at least which direction to head.
Well, I can fix the Sandy thing because I can just call her on my phone and she can join in and.
well, now she needs to be on hers. That doesn't make sense because, she's on a computer. I'm not sure how yours is still working, Bill, honestly, but
There's no internet.
Yeah, we don't have any internet, I don't think.
I'm gonna try my hotspot, and I'm allowing others to join, so if you can look at
The
your.
number of participants dropped from 11 to 6.
Yeah,
I'll see if I can figure it out here.
maybe my computer hogged all the bandwidth, Scott. I don't know.
yeah, I don't. It's not that. It's just it could be a lot of things. I mean, yeah, it's just saying there's poor performance there.
Well, maybe this is a divine intervention to not pass that resolution and make me king.
I was gonna say somebody.
Did you try signing all the way out? When I
We're just trying to prolong this board meeting so I can get extra miles on my exercise bike.
Trying to cost me a minimal wager with my wife as to what time I'd be home tonight.
Okay, yep, Sean, are you on?
No, not yet.
You want
Yeah, my Chromebook will not even load Google, my Google Mail. Just so you know that, Mr. Troutwine.
Yeah, so that's the problem. I mean, that's why we do this stuff from home. Like, we haven't been in the district office for a month, so I don't know why it wouldn't. There's that call-in number. There's that Polycom phone right by Brad. You can pull that out, use it as a conference number, and call that number that I emailed to Sandy.
Well, the issue isn't that, I mean, other than whether or not you can hear the four that are here.
That's what I'm saying. If you want to hear them, then we're good.
Well, I can hear them.
Oh yeah, but
Can you hear us if we're talking from over here? Can you hear me?
barely. I mean, yeah. If we take that conference phone out, you'll be able to hear, and then you put that over, dial it in.
All right. Well, hang on. We'll,
Yeah, it's plugged in there. I mean, you literally have to just pull it out and push dial. So
all
there,
right.
Brad's back now. Hold on.
I think I just heard you for a minute.
Brad's there.
Yeah.
There we go.
How'd you get back on my
I don't know.
mail won't load?
It was accidental.
Which is weird because it's showing him as muted. And
You want me to dial it or not?
well, that's all. I bet if Brad got on, I bet the others will come back, have them same thing, close their Chromebook for a minute and then turn it back on. I don't think Brad's quite the hacker, so I'm not terribly worried about. Yeah, that's.
I'm much of a hacker for sure. Can you hear me now?
Now Brad's running off of my hotspot, so if we need to get shown on mine, I can. There's mine. Because I'm back up too.
All right. Well, hang on.
I don't know what I am. I have a blank screen, but I can hear my voice on Bill's computer, so we're doing something good.
Yeah, you're on now, Brad, but it's really
Hey, Brad.
pixelated. Yeah.
Totally lost internet. I mean, I have no internet.
Right.
So can anybody hear anybody from home?
Yeah, they're fine. I'm still up.
All the more reason I should.
It says this.
You want me to come log you on my hotspot? You got it? You're gonna need my password. Yeah, my screen.
You're dark? Okay. Well, we can do this even if we're dark. But all right.
I actually don't open my email. It took a minute.
Let's see.
It said that it was having trouble connecting, but it was.
Okay.
Sandy, can you hear us?
Sandy, can you hear us?
Think about that.
I guess we're gonna have to use yours. I guess we're discover my phone. Now we have a gnome watching from the back of the room.
We have Allie.
You need to wave, Sandy. Still see everybody? Yeah.
We've got
No,
9:30. We need to do what, the Brady Bunch song?
Mhm. Yeah, I can see everybody like that. Yeah.
You're up. Sandra, you're on.
Are you dark? Do you have pictures over there? Do you have pictures on your screen, or is it just dark? Are you good?
Yeah, I think we're rolling.
I still don't have.
I'm mute my dude.
I don't either.
We just
Yeah.
don't have Sean and Sandy.
Well, Sandy's here.
Okay. I still can't say anything. Yeah.
Oh, now she left. Now
Okay.
she's back. She's back. She's here. I don't know what we're gonna do with Sean.
No, it's still spinning over here. It's trying to connect with Lacey's.
It's strong, so it gotta be.
I'm off too. Well, if Bill's works, we can still run the show from here and just listen to his. We'll just improvise, make it work. He's almost up.
Good.
Join there. We'll make it work.
All right. Okay, you can see Sean. Now who'd we lose?
Lacey.
She's here, I promise.
Good. Does anybody have any more questions on 8.1?
I don't have Brad on here.
I'm not on it.
Okay.
Roll call, please, Sandy.
I don't know if they can hear you.
Mrs. Cox,
Aye.
There you go.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mrs. Bowles,
Hi. Here.
Mrs. Santana,
Hi.
Mr. Petaloni,
Aye.
Mr. Vincent.
Aye. Okay, next item is 8.2. BEA, participation school board meetings. First reading. Is there a motion to approve this?
I would make a motion to. I'll second.
Thank you. So it was moved by Lacey and seconded by Ally. Is there any discussion on this item?
This was the one we thought we might put right to final approval, right?
I believe so, Diane.
Yeah. I didn't get to make that suggestion, but whoever I couldn't hear who was involved with that.
Lacey moved that we approve it, and Ollie was a second.
Okay. And would Lacey like to make that to immediate final approval?
I can make a motion to move it to immediate final approval.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think the purpose for doing that is so we can do exactly what we're doing tonight and try to do this virtually. So we can have electronic board meetings or allow people to join us electronically at least. That's the reason for going immediately to final approval.
Okay, but we need a second from Ollie.
Oh,
No, 100.
I second that.
Thank you.
Okay, so then you get,
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
well, you need to vote on the amendment and then you need to vote on.
Is there any further discussion? If not, we will vote first on the amendment. Roll call, please, Sandy.
Mrs. Cox,
Aye.
Mrs. Garrett, Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mrs. Bowles,
Hi.
Mrs. Santana, Aye. Mr. Catalini?
Aye.
Mr. Mortensen?
Aye. Okay, motion passed. Now we'll vote on the original motion, which was to approve 8.2 BEAA, electronic participation in school board meetings, first reading. All in favor, say aye. Oops, excuse me.
Aye.
Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please, Sandy.
Mrs. Cox?
Aye.
Mrs. Garrett? Aye. Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bowe?
Aye.
Mrs. Santana?
Aye.
Mr. Catalini?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. So now what we have is a bunch of second readings, 8.3 through 8.27. Is there a motion to approve them?
I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second that.
That'll be till final reading or to final approval, final adoption, final approval, I guess.
Yes. Okay, thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on any of these? If not, roll call please, Sandy.
I had one question.
All right.
I think it was, let me look up real quick, 8.3. Give me just a second. Yep, 8.3.
Okay.
It says so many hours for email and so many hours for so many hours for mail and so many hours for in person. Do we need anything in that one specifically for email? Or is mail covered with email? Although you don't need as much time with email? I don't know.
Just, I don't believe that we would need to change it for that, as long as we're giving sufficient notice. I think that the issue would just be if somebody thinks we're, for some reason, trying to be secretive or somehow not following sunshine laws. I think we're good.
Okay. That was the only thing I noticed in all of them.
Anybody else have any questions or any discussion? No, roll call please, Sandy.
Mrs. Cox?
Aye.
Mrs. Garrett? Aye. Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bowe?
Aye.
Mrs. Santana?
Aye.
Mr. Catalini?
Aye.
Mr. Mortensen?
Aye. Okay, moving on. We have no community comment at this time. Number 10 is agenda topics for consideration. We have 10.1 strategic planning, 10.2 READ Act changes. Does anybody else have any agenda topics that they would like to have considered at upcoming meetings? If not, we'll move on to item number 11, information items. The next board meeting is May 4th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Is this correct? Is it going to work for everybody? Or is there any reason to change that? Or?
I think so. I'm not sure that, you know, in today's circumstances that, you know, with what we did on personnel, there's a couple of positions left, but I don't think anybody's too concerned about whether or not they immediately get a contract that's been already approved. So I would say the 11th makes more sense in the light of any potential graduation requirements that we might ask for exception to on a particular student or two. I'd say we move it. I don't know if you want to, well, we about have to move it, don't we? Postpone it to the 11th would be, I think. What do you think, Sandy? Is 11 make sense? What do you think, Mrs. Headley?
They're going to require a motion.
The thing that is on my mind is we have through just 2 Head Start grant applications that have to be submitted by the 15th. So if we could do it before the 15th, that would be beneficial.
Okay, 11 ought to cut it then.
Okay, so is there a motion to do that?
I make a motion to I'd like to make a motion then to postpone the next board meeting from May 4th to May 11th.
Perfect. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Lacey seconded it. Is there any discussion? Not, roll call please, Sandy.
Aye.
Mrs. Barrett. Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mrs. Rao.
Aye.
Mrs. Santana.
Aye.
Mrs. Talley. Mr. Talley.
Aye. Aye. Okay, motion passed. Okay, moving on to 12.1, preliminary budget, salary schedules, 2020, 2021. Dr. Wilson.
Yeah, this is the budget that we shared with you about a month ago. And at this point, we're going to have to make some changes at some point. But if we, just for the simplicity's sake, I would like to see this approved for now, knowing that it may look, well, it undoubtedly will look substantially different come June when we actually know what the state's going to do. But this at least allows you to have what's in front of you, knowing that we have no desire to pass a crazy budget and still allows us the opportunity to get contracts out.
Okay, is there any discussion, or is somebody willing to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thanks, Lacey. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ollie.
Now, before we go, I do have kind of a clarification. The thought is that we have a 2% COLA, cost of living adjustment, that we are eligible for and we will likely receive for Head Start, which means that really that would mean all of our preschool people, because we don't really differentiate between Head Start and CPP in terms of our employees. And with that in mind, and with the idea that employee contributions are going to go up 1.25% for para, and cost of living is going up, health insurance increase for those that take anything more than what the district offers if they need to do a employee spouse or family or employee dependent. That's a between 7 and 8% increase. I'd like our contracts to reflect at this point, a 2% increase roughly, which would be adding, correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Headley, I think $500 to the base essentially, and then giving steps and lanes, and then our non-certified would be at the roughly 2%. So that would be, it's not really part of approving this budget. This budget would certainly accommodate that, but I'm not quite sure where else to put that recommendation and that thought process in. I think it fits as well here as it does anyplace else. So I wanted to make sure and throw that out there for your discussion purposes.
Does that make sense to everybody, or does anybody have any questions about that, or any discussion about that? Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve 12.1, the preliminary budget. Roll call please, Sandy.
Mrs. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Garrett. Mrs. Hanson. Mrs. Rao.
Aye.
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Morton.
Aye, aye, aye.
Okay, item 12.2, food service contract 2020-2021. Dr. Wilson can address that.
Yeah, if you noticed, there's an adjustment, an increase. I think it's 3.185 or something along those lines. It almost looks like pie if you're not really paying close attention, but that's the allowed and recommended adjustment by CDE, or the Colorado, I don't know, it's CDE, but it's a branch of that. Other than that, everything stays basically the same. We've been pleased with Chartwell, and they've been a great partner in this time. We had a bit of an interesting situation on Thursday that turned into quite a big bonus for Friday. for some reason, we had a mix up on getting the truck here on Thursday, and so it didn't come. And so then Friday morning, the regional manager or regional district manager, wherever, Doug, the guy that comes out of Fort Collins, he was already here, and they made calzones. And so we had hot lunches for Sunday. And again, just their way of stepping up and making sure that if they say they're going to make meals, we have meals. And we really haven't had many problems to speak of with Chartwells at all. And if that's a big deal. The food's continued to get better. We have teachers and we actually have law enforcement wanting to, before we had our COVID-19, they were wondering how can they get school lunches if they were to stop in? Because the meal was good and at a level that, was something that they would actually like to eat. And so I think that speaks well for them, and I'm certainly happy with them. So I'd love to go ahead and approve it. Realize it's short notice. That didn't get to me until earlier this week. So if you're not, or late last week rather, but if you're not comfortable with it, there's nothing magical about this meeting, but with no substantive changes, I didn't know. If you're as pleased with them as I am, then I see no reason not to accept it. But if you want to wait until May 11th, there's no harm there either.
I don't see any reason to wait. Let's get business taken care of. If everybody's happy with it, I would move that we approve the contract.
So is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Sean.
Any further discussion on this item? If not, roll call please, Sandy.
Mrs. Cox,
Aye.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mrs. Powell,
Aye.
Mrs. Santana. Aye. Mrs. Chadwick.
Aye.
Mrs. Singleton.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to 12.3, employee health benefits 2020, 2021. I'll let Dr. Wilson address this one also.
We received our Cigna quote and our Gills bar, which is our gap insurance. And the short version is we will have a 7.9% or less increase overall for those two pieces. And the other pieces were held solid, I believe. So that I guess technically the overall increase would actually be less than the 7.9, but rather than going into the full percentages, I would just say I'd like for you all to accept the renewal from Cigna and Gilspar, and who does our dental and vision?
Reliance.
And Reliance, where dental and vision are flat and the other two come in at 7.9, a little under 7.9%.
This might be the best news we've had in a while on health insurance and all of this.
Well, it's kind of fun because we're starting to gain more control over our expenditures. And as we have the conversation with people about how the gap insurance works, the more people that will actually buy into the gap insurance, the more that we control our large claims that never actually get to Cigna, which then helps our renewal moving forward. And we're talking about having what's called a captive, but with the whole COVID-19, we weren't able to bring that as rapidly as we would like. So I think that's even good news looking into the future where we can control it even more.
Okay, is there a motion to approve this? Okay, is there
I'll make a
second?
motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Diane and seconded by Ollie. Is any further discussion on this item? If not, roll call please, Sandy.
Mrs. Cox,
Aye.
Mrs. Garrett. Aye. Mrs. Hanson, Cloud,
Aye.
Aye.
Santana. Aye. Mr. Catalina. Mr. Catalina.
Aye. Item 12.4, Head Start FA1 Review Corrective Action Plan. I guess everybody's maybe had a chance to look at this. I'll let Dr. Wilson explain it.
When there was our review, there are certain things, and again, jump in if you'd like, Sandy or Brandy or Diane, if you have comments on it. But those are the things that we needed to step up on. Some of them were real basic and have already been addressed. Most of them have actually already been addressed. Some of them will be ongoing that need to be in our protocols and our best practices. And I didn't see anything that was overly alarming, just work that we needed to do to make sure we were as good as we can possibly be. And so this needs to be reflected in the minutes that says that you all have seen it and understand it and accept it. And then that's all part of the check boxes that happen on the Head Start side of things to make sure we're in compliance and doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and just in policy council last week, we reviewed all the documents together. So policy council obviously approved 12.4, 12.5, and 12.7. We talked about all three of those areas. I think the only things I remember, and I don't know if they're in one of those documents or not, but we were trying to get some funds. I can't think of the name of those funds, but there were some funds we didn't use and we were trying to roll them over, and that did get approved. So that was good. We'll be able to use those for curriculum and for consultant fees. So that was a win, I think, for us to see those funds and try to get them back. And we did get them back. So I'm proud of the team for that. And then they've done a phenomenal job of contacting every family. I think they make contact with every student. I think she said every week. If they can't get them like on the computer or doing something, they make sure they reach out and actually physically or not physically, but talk to the parents or the kids, however, through the phone or the computer. But they even are doing story time in the evening, just doing different things with those kids that we might not be seeing with all the other students, but with the Head Start students, they're just doing all kinds of different times. And I thought it was cool. They were doing story time at night just for parents that might need that help. So there's kids logging on and actually getting stories at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, which was great. And one of the kids did ask, how come you guys just up and left us? So there's been, it was really sad. I started to cry when I heard that. I'm like, oh, it's so sad. So there has been a lot of outreach for them for the emotional side of things too, to help them try and understand kind of what's going on, because they're pretty little. So overall they've done a very, very good job with all this. So I think it's great that they really stepped up. I think everybody has, but Head Start has got those little people, and I think that's important. So.
And I would throw this in there. I should have included it in my report, but it fits here as well. Cassie Potts, who we contract with, had connections with someone who put out a video book, a little
We lost Bill? Can anybody else hear Bill?
I don't hear him. No, I'm gonna unmute and see if you can hear. He lost. It dropped him now. See if you can hear Brad, because he's talking again.
Diane, we need a motion to accept this report.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Lacey seconded it. Is there any further discussion then? If not, roll call please, Sandy.
Mrs. Cox,
Aye.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mrs. Fowl,
Aye.
Mrs. Santana. Aye. Mr. Catalini.
Aye.
Ms. Schwartz.
Aye. Here, we're gonna move on to item 12.5, Head Start Grant Renewal for the year 2020, 2021. Dr. Wilson, you want to address this? I guess it's.
Yeah, the short version is it's part of the renewal process, and it's what we've been doing and what our grant looked a lot like to begin with, and we just need to do it again. Which year 2 of our 5 years, is that the deal?
This will be year 3.
Year 3.
That you're approving for us to continue.
Okay, so do we just need a motion to approve this, or what do we need to do? Okay.
Yeah, essentially by approving it, you're agreeing to accept the grant.
Okay. Everybody hear that okay? So we need a motion to approve item 12.5, the Head Start Grant Renewal for 2020, 2021, which will allow us to accept it.
Welcome to Hangouts Meet. Enter the meeting pin followed by the pound key.
I will make a motion.
Thanks, Lacey. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Ollie. So it's been moved by Lacey and seconded by Ollie. Is there any further discussion on this item?
Thank you. You are joining us.
I had something. I wasn't sure if we had discussed it in the past, but when Diane and I went to the Kendra, Mrs. Smith had let us know about a couple of
pretty much since at the training, and I.
We can't hear anything at all at this end. We can't hear anything.
now?
Yes.
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 You went off too.
No, I'm on here.
Yes.
I can hear.
I can see it. Yeah. So anyways, that's just one thing that I thought was really amazing is that it's just not only is it, I guess, a goal for going
You're on again,
doing
Allie.
the community, if that makes any sense, for a lot.
Can you say that again?
Guys, we can't hear anything on our side again.
Okay.
Now I am.
Okay.
I unmuted.
Mrs. Cox. Mrs. Cox.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything. I couldn't hear anything that Allie said. I asked her if she could repeat it, but I don't know if she heard me ask that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Head Start Grant Renewal for 2020.
Oh, wow.
For 2022. And we are having roll call.
Are we
Sandy
voting?
and roll call, and Lacey.
Yeah,
Diane.
we are.
Okay. Aye.
Mrs. Garrett. Mrs. Garrett.
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mrs. Fowl. Mrs. Fowl.
Aye.
Mrs. Santana.
Aye.
Aye. Mrs. Santana.
Aye.
Mr. Catalini.
Aye.
Mr.
Okay, item 12.6, Head Start Summer 2020 Program Supplement. Dr. Wilson, I guess I'd better explain this one.
Short version for this is this grant is due soon. It needs to be in our minutes that the board would be okay with that, and that if there were any costs that might be associated with us, we could pay for that, but we would also be receiving monies from Head Start, and it needs to be in our minutes. We don't know that we're gonna be able to offer anything in the summer. If it is, it'd be June 1. Hopefully by then, we're in a spot where we can do something. If we say yes now and decide no later, that's fine, but we need to say yes now if we apply for in order to apply for the funds. So that's essentially what you do, is approving the ability for us to say, yes, we'd like to explore the possibility of having summer opportunity for our preschool.
Okay. So having heard that, is there a motion to approve this 2020 program supplement?
I'll make a motion. Or Diane can.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Diane made a motion and Sean seconded it. Is there any further discussion? If not, roll call please, Sandy.
Mrs. Cox,
Aye.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mrs. Bow,
Aye.
Mrs. Santana,
Aye.
Mrs. Donnelly,
Hi.
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Mortensen.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 12.7, Head Start COLA Quality Improvement Grant. Dr. Wilson.
Again, this is monies. The nice thing about this, and I don't know if Mrs. Headley's still on here or not, but we talked a little bit about it today, is in addition to approving or gaining us access to the COLA, it also provides funding for the other piece of that. And then that the base grant. So instead of the 685 or 695 that we would get now, then our baseline would always be 735. I mean, $40,000 grant. I can't remember exactly, but so it's sort of a double bonus. It provides the 2% COLA, which is nice because it's money we wouldn't otherwise get. But then the other monies we get to use this year, but we talked about using it for trauma-informed training for our staff, but it's not one-time money. So we would then, if that's an ongoing training that needs to take place, or if there's some program materials, we would have the additional monies each year. As long as we have the grant, that changes our grant number in perpetuity. So all the more reason to say yes.
So
that's all I have to say.
So we don't necessarily need a motion to approve, but we need a motion to
accept.
Accept.
So is there a motion to accept this 12.7?
I'll make a motion to accept the COLA Quality Improvement Grant for Head Start.
Thanks, Diane. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Ollie. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, roll call please, Sandy.
Mrs. Cox,
Aye.
Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mrs. Bow,
Aye.
Mrs. Santana.
Aye.
Mrs. Donnelly,
Aye.
Mr. Mortensen.
Aye. Motion passes. Item number 12.8, construction update. Dr. Wilson.
We received the final request, or essentially the notification that our warranty period would start on Thompson and on Beaver Valley additions. We're still working on some cleanup details over at the maintenance / concession facility. We're working on punch items at the secondary campus, working on asphalt. We've taken out the South Road, so then we're also working on grading and drainage and landscaping. curb and gutter, all that sort of stuff. So that the goal would be that from a construction side of things, their goal is to all be done and out of there by the middle of May. If they beat Memorial Day, I'll be pleased, but a little surprised. And from a demo side, I think they'll be ready to start demolition on the middle school that first week of May. And as I mentioned earlier, probably get started on the Wolf property, or 1404, what used to be the Wolf property, 1404 Mill Street, possibly ahead of that. So things are moving, and we should, I'm thankful that they were able to keep working, and thankful for cooperative strategies has continued to, and our architects have continued to stay on board and working for us. So that's all worked out okay. Should be getting final numbers shortly after that. So we should have our final construction numbers by our June meeting. So from a fiscal standpoint, it's kind of nice to get it all wrapped up in this one if we can. I say that knowing that there'll be pieces that we'll do outside of the actual project that need done, but this way we're not paying an additional percentage on top of things to any of our general contractors. But we should be in good shape and ready to open for sure in August if they'll let us.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Dr. Wilson on the construction projects? If not, moving on, we have no executive session at this time. I guess the only thing we have left on our agenda is to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion. We adjourn.
Thanks, Lacey. Is there a second? Thanks, Ally. Yeah, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. Any discussion? If not, roll call please, Sandy.
Mrs. Cox,
Aye.
Mrs. Garrett,
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Val,
Aye.
Mrs. Santana,
Aye.
Catalina,
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Weinberg.
Aye. I want to thank everybody for your patience with this Google Hangout trial that we did tonight, and hopefully if we have to do it again, which we probably will, it'll work better next time. Thanks for everything. We're adjourned. That was interesting.